I think we at Digital Undivided take a different approach, or we have a different, I would say, outcome of what we're able to do post-pandemic. So unlike these two incredible ladies working squarely in healthcare, I have the honor and privilege of leading Digital Undivided, which is the nation's leading nonprofit organization driving the global shift towards inclusive innovation and entrepreneurship for Black and Latina women. Now, imagine the strain, the stress of this unprecedented time and uncertainty on women of color, on Black and Latina women who are wholly underrepresented in spaces of leadership, whether that be corporate America, whether that be entrepreneurship, the ability to start businesses. And so we saw immense demand. And I came into the role of CEO June 1st of 2020 from chairing our board of directors. And Digital Undivided's outcomes and impact, we're a 10-year-old organization, has been proven time and time again. But again, we used to be a localized organization. We were in Atlanta, we had a facility there, an office there, a co-working space. We were in Newark with the same setup. And when I saw the demand, the need to resource and equip women of color, business owners of the future, the women that I really knew could be the game changers and the future unicorns of our society, I took that opportunity, and instead of saying more access to healthcare, it was like more access to programming, which in turn creates healthcare, right? Because a lot of women of color don't have healthcare, can't afford healthcare, don't have good healthcare within our companies. So for me, it was solving a variety of personal and professional concerns and issues for a large swath of our community, being Black and Latina women, by being able to leverage technology to make our programs virtual, which also made our organization nationwide, which allowed us to serve more than 10 times the founders than we would traditionally be able to serve in a year. It also meant that we got to see and support founders no matter where they were in the world, in the country. Really, in the country, we're focused on the US, but we also found that with these changes, we had US-based businesses that said, hey, it was actually cheaper to move somewhere else right now and be like a digital nomad. Even though their companies incorporated in the US, we were able to use this moment in time, leveraging technology and tools to say we want to not just have outsized impact and outcomes, but also we want to help you accelerate your growth. And we were really able to do that by leveraging technology, and also able to support a wide variety of solutions that have been able to achieve, and we're doing data on this. We have a data research institute within Digital Undivided, but they've been able to achieve kind of 5-year milestone outcomes that most Black and Latina entrepreneurs achieve by about 24 months because of our work, our support, but also, to your point, being able to have meetings on Zoom, being able to get meetings easier, being able to remove a lot of the barriers, again, for most women of color, even as founders, even if they are funded, we're less funded than everyone else. So therefore, our expense budgets to travel are, a stipend compared to someone else who might have a larger budget to work with. And all of these things in tandem, I think, created this really incredible opportunity for acceleration for business growth for Black and Latina women, which we've also seen go into healthcare, go into FinTech, a variety of new areas, because they're also able to figure out, in the tech world, we often talk about fail fast and pivot. So this has been a wonderful time to fail fast and pivot because you're able to actually do both if you need to. I feel better hearing and this is where I, as an entrepreneur 3 times over, have to stop myself often, because I'm leading this incredible nonprofit organization, but we want and need to move at the speed of the ecosystem, at the speed of tech in order to support our founders. But we're small, but we're backed by incredible financial institutions and technology companies and a lot of the leaders in the space. When I came in as CEO, I said, all money, as we know, is not created equal, right? The same way that we're telling our founders to look for strategic capital, I was very intentional on funding this organization with strategic capital. So yes, we needed the money, but we also needed and wanted it from the gatekeepers and the leaders who could help us open more doors and dismantle bias. With that came an onslaught in the most positive way of more data. More data because I had more questions as our new leader, more data because we were in completely unprecedented times, more data because there were unprecedented outcomes for women of color sooner than anyone would have ever imagined. Our work on our research work impacts advocacy, it impacts policy for a lot of our funders that have, a policy arm that are looking for data to say, hey, like, we don't have this data, and we know that we can take any example. We could take universal access to broadband as just a wonderful, simple example. And we have partners that support our work that say, but in your research, are you able to quantify or determine how many women of color don't have access to high-speed internet and how many more orders they would be able to process if they did, or how much more money they would make if they could process more orders and how many more jobs that would create, right? And the positive impact on society and economic development. And so we are in a very similar battle for data. And we have a lot of data, but we are now in this, it makes me feel better to know that the really big places are dealing with the same challenges that we are. And I think right now it's more like the data is being created faster than we can even create a system to capture it, A, and B, this organization is more than a decade old. I've been involved with the org in every form and fashion from the very beginning when it just started. And we also have 10 years of data to now put into a more sophisticated system that we can afford as an organization or that we actually need to utilize. It's not all about money, but like when we started this org, the issue of Black and Latina women as founders, I mean, maybe you had 5 fields in a survey. Because there wasn't that much happening to even ask that many questions. Now we have more questions, but we also want to be able to track how far we've come or how far we have not come. We do that too. We talk a lot about our successes, but we also, at Digital Undivided, continue to highlight the issues, the bias, the problems, the systemic issues. That also means that I have to look at my team and go, hey guys, we got to move at the speed of light today, but we also got to capture this 10 years and migrate over to a fancy Salesforce system or a variety of other systems that we're using to be able to run even more sophisticated models. And imagine if you have a data point now that didn't exist 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago, how are we even creating a baseline? So a lot of what we're also doing right now, I think a wonderful example is I have a personal mission that Digital Undivided is supporting on, that I want to see the valuations of companies founded and led by Black and Latina women, at least 25% of these companies in the US, I want to see their valuations double by the end of next year. Raise your hand if you think that's crazy. I'm going to ask again. All right, raise your hand if you think that's crazy, and then keep your hand down if you think it's achievable and long overdue. Okay, well, for those of you in the online audience that can't see the folks in the room with me here, no one has raised their hand, which means that everybody, and we've got a really powerful room here, thinks that this is well overdue. That also means that when I'm looking at that and I'm saying that I want to see the amount of businesses, 25% of these companies, that their valuations need to double, it's also because we want and need to see more leadership opportunity. But again, we don't have a data point to even be able to baseline this. So when I say it to my team, and we say, hey, look, in order for us to quantify this, and our data is undeniable in many ways, it's cited by lots of other places that we know, like, love, trust, and respect, McKinsey, BCG, Good Morning America. Sometimes I turn on the TV and they're pulling stats on women of color and entrepreneurship from Digital Undivided. But now my team says to me, hey, Lauren, this is great. We've surveyed Black and Latina women to figure out valuation, to set a baseline. Perceived valuation, real valuation, priced valuation, maybe no valuation because it's friends and family around, right? Market forces, whatever it is that we can kind of extrapolate to try to create a baseline. And my team also says, but in order for this to be even more powerful, we have to survey all women. Because now we want to understand the disparity on valuation basis alone between non-minority women and Black and Latina women. It's not just that we want the data on Black and Latina women, because is it as powerful if we can't benchmark it against something that everyone else feels that they know and are most comfortable with? So that's our battle right now with data, and we're moving as quickly as we possibly can, and we have a team of entirely Black and Latina women, PhDs and master's degrees, sociologists, anthropologists, that know the access gaps, the knowledge gaps, the resource gaps that are the specific reasons that we often run in place. We're bringing the individualized data to life with case studies, because we know that like the data alone, to your point, yes, it's very powerful, but we also know what really gets people's attention is a story or an illustration, a visual of impact, of change. So we're doing that. And then on the same side of what you're speaking about, Liz, with security and privacy to data, for very different reasons, completely different reasons. You have to imagine that so many Black and Latina women of color in general, who would participate in our research historically, they felt that it was almost a disservice, especially those that were successful, to let anyone else in the world know that they were successful. So we would have so many requests for, anonymized data, but we still would get the data, right? But they're like, but not my name, right? And then this is a very interesting, just a quick thing. 2 years ago, it was December 2020, we came out with our industry-defining Project Diane research report. It's the only research report in the ecosystem that tracks the funder-founder landscape relative to women of color, to Black and Latina women. We have an incredible communications team, and our publicist had interest from CNN. We had a lot of interest, Fast Company, Vogue Business, I don't even want to misspeak and miss some, but Fortune, USA Today, Wall Street Journal, all of the big outlets. And CNN said, hey, we love that you have identified 183 Black and Latina women who have raised more than $1 million in venture capital since starting this research report in 2016. They said, we want to put it on the homepage of CNN.com. And can you help us with getting photo approvals for 183 women? Because we don't own the photos, right? We don't take the photos, so then you go down the rabbit hole of photo rights and this other things. And it was interesting because there were some of the women that we had identified and somewhat anonymized that then said, I don't want to be anonymous anymore, right? I want to be known to the world. And lo and behold, we also discovered a few other companies that had intentionally been so stealth, so concealed, because they felt that their identity, gender, race, ethnicity, was going to close doors and opportunities for them. And then when they heard about this, they said, what proof do you need? I'll send you my articles, I'll send you my letter from my lead investor. I've raised more than $1 million in capital, but it's always been a disservice to me because as a woman of color, if you go out and say you have raised $1 million, like, you got enough. Does anybody say that to non-minority men? No, right? They give you more even when you don't need it. And then we see it in TechCrunch that they're like, I didn't even need the capital, but I took it so that I can expand at my leisure in the future. We don't get that opportunity. So for very different reasons, we're like in the mode of like, some folks wanted to be anonymous before, now they don't now. How are we putting the data together? How are we telling these powerful stories? And how are we as a nonprofit organization a small nonprofit, moving at the speed of light to make sure that the most relevant information gets in the hands of our founders so that they know how to, often footnote their decks, their investment decks, to just even show how rare they are as a founder. Because Black and Latina women receive less than half of 1% of venture capital dollars. All women receive less than 2% of venture capital dollars. The math is simple. That means 98% of VC dollars go to men of any ethnicity. So we're fighting a variety of battles. They're similar yet dissimilar in so many ways, but I think if you take away the exact work that we're all doing, we are fighting very similar battles. As an organization focused on diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging within the work that we do every day, there's just a series of new hiccups, right? Even around healthcare. So we were on our first ever company retreat. I took everybody to Martha's Vineyard. Somebody got sick. She's like, but I don't need to go to the emergency room. And I was like, can you do a telehealth visit? And she's like, she has to be in her home state to do the telehealth visit. And I was like, what's the point of telehealth? Sorry. So, we made it work. We did some holistic health things, and she felt great. It was fine. But, there's just like these little hiccups, or even now trying to figure out like the right insurance policy for a remote organization where everyone is in different states. Like, how on earth does that work, and why on earth are the plans not yet caught up to where we are in this moment, even as a temporary fix? So now I know, folks, that maybe we can go solve these problems together. But these are good problems to have, I think, though. I think all in all, these are really positive growing pains for like where our world is moving towards and where our communities are moving towards. And I grew up as a little girl really always curious about tech in the future, and I never wanted to like be the Flintstones. I always thought we were going to be the Jetsons. And so I'm just like waiting for the time that we can like hit a button and like get scanned and just do and take the medicine and keep it moving. So I think all of us want to keep it moving, but I also think we're just in a world where whether it's financial oversight, talking about helping our founders fundraise, whether it's medical rules, whether it's SEC rules, whether, you know, like all of these things are all changing, and none of the systems are designed to support the needs of where we are in this moment. And everyone says they want change, and then you have folks like us that are there to help ensure that the change actually not just happens, but that it is sustained and then improved, because it's as you say, it's clunky. So I think we see a lot of folks thinking, we're good. Like, I'm going, no, we're not good. Can you keep iterating, please? So hopefully we have a lot of bright minds, but open perspectives to how the world needs to move on all of these fronts in the future.